Hi everyone! Welcome to a Jayda InStitches Show Crochet Quick Fix Refresher. Today we're going to cover our little pot scrubber pattern. This is a two-sided little pot scrubber made all in one go. This one was made using a scrub it style yarn. That's a sort of a partially scrubby yarn, partially plain old cotton. This is 100% cotton, but I'm going to demonstrate today using a plain 100% cotton yarn. This is a size for medium weight. You don't need very much, 40 yards or less will do it per scrubber. You need a pair of scissors, a yarn needle, and the hook we're using is a 5.5 millimeter, also known as an I or a 9 in the US, a size 5 in the UK. And if you'd like a written copy of this little pattern, you'll find it available in our Etsy shop, and we'll put a link to that in the description box down below. So once you've got all that together, we can get started. We're going to begin with a cinch circle. Once you've chained one to secure your circle, you're going to chain two more. And for row 1, this chain 3 will count as a double crochet. Into our cinch circle, ensuring that we work over top of our short tail, we're going to work 11 double crochets. 11 double crochet stitches into our cinch circle. Make sure you work over that little short tail. Once you've worked 11 double crochet into your cinch circle, including the chain 3 that began, you have 12 stitches. Grab that little short tail, cinch up your circle nice and tight, and you can join with a slip stitch to the top of that chain 3. So find the chain 3 and just stick your hook through the top of it. You can ignore your little short tail. You can just let it hang to the back. You don't have to work over top of it. It will end up on the inside of your scrub it, or you can weave it in as you go. It's entirely up to you. In row 2, we're going to double our stitch count. The chain 3 that begins this row is not going to count as a double crochet, but we'll explain that a little more when we get back around to it. You're going to double crochet into the same stitch that you joined in, so there's that little space there. So same stitch that you just chained 3 out of. And now we're going to work 2 double crochet into each stitch around. That first stitch looks a little funny, so don't miss it. And you're going to work 2 double crochet into each stitch. I'm going to catch up with you when we get near the end of this row, and I'm going to show you what a false stitch looks like. As we near the end of row 2, you're going to have worked 2 double crochet into each stitch, and that brings you up to this little guy right here. See this thing? It looks like a stitch. It sits at the very bottom of the chain 3. This is what we sometimes call the false stitch, and for the purpose of this pattern, we're actually going to use it. We're going to double crochet into it once, and then we're going to skip over top of our chain 3, and we're going to join with a slip stitch to the top of the first real double crochet we made. So we're ignoring the chain 3. We will now have 24 stitches at the end of row 2, and you've got a nice solid circle. And before we go forward, I just want to say that exact stitch count is not super important with this pattern. I'm going to give you the stitch count at the end of every row so you know where you're at, but if you're short 1, over 1, it doesn't matter. This is a little pot scrubber after all. For row 3, we're going to chain 3 to begin. We are also not going to count the chain 3 as a double crochet in this pattern, but we'll get back around to that. We're going to double crochet into the same stitch that we chained 3 out of, and that's that little space right there. We're going to double crochet once into the stitch after that, and now we're going to do a little increase pattern. We're going to repeat all the way around. Into the first stitch of the set, you're going to work 2 double crochet. You're going to double crochet once into the stitch after that, and that's what you're going to repeat all the way around, 2 1 2 1, until you get back to the false stitch, and I will catch up with you there. As we near the end of row 3, we're going to finish our last little set of increases, so 2 double crochet into the first stitch of the set, double crochet once into the next stitch. That ends just before our false stitch. We're going to do what we did last row, double crochet once into the false stitch, skip over our chain 3, find the top of that first real double crochet, and join with a slip stitch. You've got 36 stitches now. We're not counting that chain 3, and now we're going to begin to decrease. We're going to chain 3 to begin. we're going to completely ignore this stitch. We're also going to begin our decreasing pattern in the next stitch. So you're done with this stitch here. We're going to move to the next one. And this is how we double crochet 2 stitches together. Yarn over your hook and pick up a loop in the first stitch, just like you were going to double crochet. Yarn over, work the first half of that double crochet stitch, and now move on to the next stitch. Yarn over, pick up a loop in that first stitch, yarn over, work the first half of that double crochet, and now you should have 3 loops on your hook. Each of those loops is attached to something. There's the chain 3, that's 2 half-worked double crochets. Yarn over, pull back through everything. Remember, we will be ignoring the chain 3, so really this is the only thing you have to worry about. It's this stitch here. You're going to double crochet once as normal into the stitch after that. And then you're going to start the decrease all over again. So into the next 2 stitches, you're going to double crochet 2 stitches together. And then double crochet once into the next stitch. Repeat that little decreasing pattern all the way around, and you'll be back down to 24 stitches at the end of row 4. As we get around to the end of row 4, you're going to work your last double crochet 2 stitches together across the last 2 real stitches, and that's going to leave you with the false stitch, which doesn't quite even look like it normally does because our chain 3 is really pulled to the side. We're going to work our last double crochet into that false stitch because we didn't do anything in the same stitch that the chain 3 came out of at the beginning of this row. So we're just sort of shifting our work in one direction. You're still though going to skip over your chain 3, find the top of that double crochet 2 stitches together stitch that we began the row with, and you can join with a slip stitch to the top of that stitch. There we go. We're down to 24 stitches. We're starting to turn things inward. Here's my little short tail stuck in the middle. We're going to now work double crochet 2 stitches together throughout the entire row of row 5. We're going to chain 3 to begin. We're going to ignore this chain 3. We're going to move away from, so we see that's where we just chained out of. We're going to skip that. We're done with it. We're going to start in the next stitch. We're going to double crochet 2 stitches together all the way around, and that's going to bring us from 24 stitches down to 12. We're going to work the last double crochet 2 stitches together across the last real stitch, and we're going to use that false stitch that sits underneath that chain 3, which is sort of pulled to one side. So we're going to work the first half of the last double crochet in that stitch, and then we're going to repeat that little thing in the false stitch. So we're working double crocheting 2 stitches together. We're going to skip over the chain 3, find the top of the first double crochet 2 stitches together, that's this one here, and we're going to slip stitch to join. And now you're down to 12 stitches. Most importantly, you should have something that's starting to curve inwards like this. Remember, stitch count doesn't really matter. You just want this little tiny scrub it to sort of start out round, get big, and then close up again. We're going to close in that little 12 stitch round hole that's open with some half double crochet 3 stitches together stitches. So we're going to chain 1 to begin, and this chain 1 doesn't count as anything, and we're going to start in the same stitch that we joined in. So you're going to yarn over, you're going to pick up a loop in that first stitch, or the same stitch that you chained 1 out of, but we don't really want these to be thick stitches. So you're just going to pick up a stitch, or pick up a loop in the next stitch, that's the second, and then pick up a loop in the third stitch. So we're half double crocheting 3 stitches together. You'll have a whole bunch of loops on your hook here, 5 in total. Yarn over, pull back through everything, and we're going to do that a couple more times. We're going to yarn over, pick up a loop in the first stitch, but because we don't want this to be very thick, we're just going to pick up a loop in each of the next 2 stitches, and this little space is going to close in, so you might have to slow down. Yarn over, pull back through everything. There we go. We're going to do this twice more. So we're going to yarn over, pick up a loop in the next stitch, pick up a loop in the next stitch, pick up a loop in the next stitch. So you've picked up a loop in 3 stitches, yarn over, pull back through everything. And the last 3 stitches we're working across are 2 real stitches and the false stitch. It's very small at this point. Yarn over, pick up a loop in the first stitch, pick up a loop in the next stitch, and very carefully pick up a loop, there it is, in that last stitch, nice and small. Yarn over, pull back through everything, and now you can join that row with a slip stitch. Find the top of that first stitch, half double crochet 3 stitches together that we did. Just get your hook underneath it there. Slip stitch to join. This does not have to be pretty. You can snip your yarn. Fasten off. Pull that nice and tight. And you can flatten it out and you've got a great little scrubber. Now you can take your yarn needle, thread up that tail that's left behind. If you have any sort of holes still showing, you can just cinch them shut by weaving your tail underneath some of those stitches. If you don't have any holes showing, then just weave your tail in back and forth underneath some stitches a couple of times, just so that it doesn't want to unravel on you. And it doesn't matter what stitches you use, but do try to go back and forth a couple times. There we go. And once you're pretty sure that thing's not going to come undone, you can trim any excess you might have. There we go, and you're done. That is a simple little pot scrubber. Now you can make your stitches tighter and smaller if you want to downsize the size of your hook, so you can use whatever hook size you like. You can experiment with different yarns. That, like I said before, is a half scrubby yarn, half regular yarn. You can even use the scrubby yarns that are kind of, they're not cotton, but they're made for making little scrubby dishcloths. They're all kind of scrubby. You can use that too, and you might want to use a bigger hook just so you can really see your stitches. But you can have fun with that little pattern. It makes for a nice, thick, little pot scrubber pattern. It's small, so you can get into those little round spaces in your pot. Use a little bit of baking soda if you're having trouble getting those little hard to get off bits and pieces of food off your pots. And this little thing works out great. You can toss them in the washing machine and toss them in the dryer to dry, and they'll last you quite a long time. We hope you enjoyed this little quick fix refresher on our little pot scrubber pattern, and we will see you soon here on the Jayda and Stitches show. Until then, stay safe, stay crafty, and have a great week. Bye everybody!
Hi everyone, this is Mama in Stitches. Thank you for watching. Here are a few other videos you might enjoy. Don't forget to subscribe, and you can also click the like button and the bell. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.